Collin, Sexton, John Collins, both fabulous as the youngsters struggle in the Jazz 9th straight loss, this time to the Rockets, who've won 11 in a row. We're talking about it next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone with you for POSTCAST tonight. And last time these two teams matched up, the Rockets led by 27 minutes into the game and never got closer. Scored 147 points against the Jazz tonight. The Jazz played 48 minutes of really good defense, stayed engaged the entire way, really held the Rockets down, but the offense didn't get going. Collin, Sexton, and John Collins put on yeoman's performances carrying the Jazz. In this one, the Jazz led by 10 at the end of one, holding the Rockets to 13 points in the first quarter, led by 6 at the end of 2, led by 3 at the end of 3, and then lost it by 1, 100-101. This was, Will Hardy's pregame tonight was talking about trying to build habits for the youngsters, good habits for the youngsters to build on for the future. I'm not sure this game did that, but I do think what it did was kind of gave the youngsters a model by which to live by. Collin, Sexton, and John Collins were terrific.
Yep, you hit it right on the head, David. Anytime you get just taken out of your ball game, taken out of your comfort zone, you should learn something from that. And I think a couple of these players probably did, especially Keontae.
So let's talk about Collin and John. We will touch on the three youngsters really having a pretty tough night tonight. But let's talk about Collin. Offensively, running the show, high pick and roll, time and time again, and he just has slowed down and is so much better at this than he used to.
Yeah, that middle pick and roll, high pick and roll you're just pointing out was really successful for the Jazz right there in the middle of the floor, strictly because of Collin Sexton's ability to maneuver and get into the paint and make some things happen. John Collins, for the most part, offensively, he's always been just consistent. He gets to the point where he's going to get you 15 to 20 points a ball game, 10 rebounds. Tonight, he had to carry the team, 10 for 14 from the field, him and Collin Sexton anyway, 11 rebounds, 2 of those coming on the offensive glass.
Jazz were without Lowry Markkanen, without Jordan Clarkson, maybe for the rest of the year, for all we know. We'll see on the injuries as you get winding down. We only have 8 games left. You start to, what are you rehabbing for? At some point in this process. So these two guys are really going to have to continue to do this. John may thrive in this role a little bit. But it's hard when you don't have those two guys relieving some of the burden.
Yeah. I expect to see Collin Sexton and Collins on the floor, for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Whether those other guys, don't play or not, but I think those two guys will definitely be on the floor. This is, David, it's just, you come so close. You hope they can pull it out and win the basketball game. But again, you just go back to what did they learn? And especially the way to start a ball game off, because that first quarter was pretty ugly for both teams for the most part. But it was our young players that did not.
Rockets shot 5 of 24 in the first quarter, 2 of 11 from 3. Jazz shot 7 of 25, 1 of 12 from 3. So the first quarter was really, really ugly in this game, but the Jazz defensively just so much better. The Rockets play a switching defense. What did that do to the Jazz tonight?
I think it bothered the Jazz. Switching 1 through 5, and the Jazz worked very, very hard, knowing that they were doing it, and was trying to post up John Collins in the middle of the lane. Brooks did a great job of not letting it happen. There was a few instances in that first quarter where even Jalen Green was really fighting John Collins, trying to get him to, trying to keep him from getting that position down low. So their game plan, as far as taking the Jazz out of what they wanted to do, worked, I thought. And so did the Jazz game plan for the most part.
Jazz did a great job in the first half. Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green had 9 points. They were combined 4 of 17 shooting. In the second half, the two of them combined for 47 points. Jalen Green having 30 in the second half of this game. That's a career high, points and a half. What allowed them to get going?
Well, it was the same thing in the first ball game the Jazz played the Houston Rockets. The third period, Jalen Green took the game over. he's just so crafty, plays so well off the dribble, was able to get to the rim, got a number of free throws there in that third period, and that's what it was. He started the ball rolling for the Houston Rockets, I thought, in the second half.
Well, Jalen Green has been fabulous for about 11 straight games now for the Rockets. They've won 11 straight games as well. He's been averaging 30.7 rebounds, 51% from the field, and 46% from three. We saw him just dominate a game. And one of the things you talk about, Ron, whenever you give out stars, is you want to find guys who dominate sections of games. Lowry's done it a few times this year, but as the Jazz continue to build, that's something they need. They need somebody who can just own a basketball game for 12 minutes like Jalen Green did tonight.
Exactly. I mean, Collin Sexton has done a very good job of that, and I think that's what Will would like to see out of Lauri Markkanen, being able just to dominate a ball game for his skill level and his height, where he shoots the basketball. That Will would love to see that to the point where he just takes over a ball game.
All right, so much of our focus right now is on the young players, and frankly, Will Hardy said it in the pregame press conference tonight that we're trying to build the habits and the foundation for Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, Taylor Hendricks, and Walker Kessler to understand. So let's run through them for a moment. I'll do it by where they are in the box score. Bryce Sensabaugh tonight, 0 for 8, 0 for 7 from 3. He did have 4 rebounds, 4 assists, minus 16, no points in 25 minutes of action. His inability to make a shot is stunning to me, Ron.
Yeah.
This was one of the better shooters coming into the draft. He is guiding it and looks like he has lost most of his confidence shooting right now.
Believe me, most guys that at this level has been there. Have got to the point where it's not falling, and you start going back to mechanics and trying to make sure that your mechanics are good and you're following through. I mean, you're doing all these things, and for some reason, David, it seemed like it makes it worse. Instead of just playing and shooting, when it's there and not worrying about your mechanics and stuff like that, you go the other way. And I think that might be what he's going through right now. I'm sure Will will say, hey, continue to shoot the basketball. Don't hesitate. Continue to shoot the basketball, because otherwise, you're not helping us at all.
So Taylor Hendricks tonight hits 2 threes late, one just that was kind of meaningless at the end, but he ends up with 8 points. He does have 9 rebounds, 2 assists tonight, 3 of 7 shooting. The one thing I thought he still needs to learn is what Will's talked a lot about, is like how to use his length defensively.
Yeah.
Jalen Green's obviously very, very difficult, but he just was getting driven by on plays in which I thought he could have been a step or two back further, still impacted a step back shot with his length, and then not have to deal with drive-bys.
I totally agree with that, David, and you pointed that out, a couple other times there as well. And watching that, you're absolutely right. He's probably too close to whoever he's guarding. And then another thing is, and I hear Will talk about the base being wider. I think sometimes I disagree with that, because I think you're quicker if your feet are closer together. I mean, you can react quicker anyway. But what I'm not seeing is those choppy defensive steps that keeps you in front of a guy, that type of thing. It's the long sliding steps that he gets beat by.
All right, let's go to Keontae. This was a rough one tonight. 3 of 12, 0 for 4, did not go to the free throw line, 6 assists, 6 turnovers, minus 12, and got pulled. Did not finish the game tonight, which Will wants him to do, but he just wasn't playing well enough to fill the game. And maybe the other stuff is just the visible frustration. I mean, he is just 20 years old. We have to remember he's played a lot, but he's just a kid. He is complaining and wanting calls and frustrated at a very high rate right now. And the 6 turnovers are becoming somewhat of a regular occurrence. What are you seeing right now, Ron?
Well, he's not taking care of the basketball. He's getting picked. When I mean picked, I mean guys are picking. He's dribbling the basketball, and the defense is picking his pocket. Van Leaf did it, and
back-to-back plays.
Back-to-back, yeah. I know it was a couple of times back-to-back, and just because you're not keeping your body between the guy that's guarding you and the basketball, and he gets picked. And again, I go back, David, to changing directions and sort of going somewhere with the basketball and making the defense have to go with you. I think he learned something tonight from Van Leaf, especially driving to the basket, and Collin Sexton there as well, because Van Leaf was not trying to take the charge. He was not trying to block your shot. He was waiting for you to bring the ball down so he can tie you up. And we saw that quite a few times here tonight.
Something happened along the way here where the scouting report got out on Keontae to pick him up at 75 feet. You don't see guards getting picked up at 3/4 court at all in this league. Keontae's getting picked up and pressured really far away, and he's going to have to beat this scouting report at some point.
Yeah, great pickup, David, because that's definitely what's happening. What they're doing, they're making him change directions a lot of times, and he's a little too careful. And by being that way, and he's taking the ball between his legs, he continues to put the Jazz on the short clock a lot of times, and that affects the offense because you never get a chance to get to your second option if that's the case, or whatever. But again, he needs to speed things up. I think off the dribble, bringing the ball up before get into something right away.
Well, our next opponent is in a dandy right now. Dallas and Sacramento are tied at 103. They've lost Malik Monk tonight to a knee injury. Luka Doncic fell on him. Kevin Huerter's out for the season. So we'll head to Sacramento. They'll be desperate for a win, particularly if they don't hold on to win this one. They were been ahead most of the way, and now they are tied at 103. Cleveland comes in here after that. Donovan Mitchell and the crew, if Donovan's able to play, they beat Philadelphia tonight 117-114. Donovan did play tonight, so expect to see Donovan on the court for our next home game after this one. Stars tonight are
we got Houston coming in again, right?
And then don't we play Cleveland first and then Houston?
Cleveland, then Houston, yes.
Stars tonight are about as easy as they have been on any night all season long.
Absolutely.
Collin Sexton and John Collins are our stars tonight. Sexton, I believe, takes the lead, ties for the team lead
with
Markkanen for stars, if not taking the lead. And if Lowry is rehabbing here for a little while, Collin Sexton could finish the year as the star leader, which I actually think is appropriate because to me the number one story of this season is the emergence of Collin Sexton as a bona fide, productive NBA player who could be that on a winning team. Last year the story was Lowry, and I think this year the story is Collin, so he may be our star leader appropriately.
Could very well be. Did you see the turnovers tonight?
How many did Collin have?
Well, Collin had 4, and so did Keontae had 6, but we had 21 turnovers and gave up 27 points.
And they had 10 turnovers.
Yeah.
We don't force turnovers, and we commit them. It's a bad combo. Jazz have lost 9 in a row. Rockets have won 11 straight. That was a fun one tonight, though. Jazz played much better. Really good basketball. Rockets win at 101-100. We'll now send you to the first ever 24/7 national sports channel. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today on Amazon Fire TV or on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today. Have a great one. See you.